I was wondering what exactly happened to Fumito Ueda, the creator of Shadow of the Colossus, ICO, and The Last Guardian, and his team, because we don't really have much news about them. At least me, I love Shadow of the Colossus, and I'd love to see more from Fumito Ueda and his team. So I'm going to uncover that to see where is Fumito and his team now. And from what it seems like, Fumito Ueda actually left Sony in 2011, but he remained in Sony to complete the Last Guardian project that released in 2016, late 2016. But at the same time, in 2014, he opened this new video game studio, independent studio called Gen Design, which is basically him and a bunch of Team ICO and Shadow of the Colossus developers that came together to create more video games. I did find this report from Gamatsu about Fumito Ueda, and the next project is already underway in 2018, and that's rivals the scale of previous titles. And some tidbits that they mention here, one that it's curious is that we're in the stage of various trials. We're actually making our ideas to test if they're interesting or not, and they're being supported by Cool on Nights, which is basically a video game fund. They funded a bunch of different games like Sea of Stars or Saifu. And so yeah, at this stage in 2018, they were still just doing a lot of prototyping to see what would work or not. But in 2020, Epic Games came along and essentially accepted to fully fund and publish the new video game from Gen Design, splitting the sales 50-50 for Epic Games and for Gen Design. Okay, so it's been a couple of years now. It's been at least 4 years since this Epic Games deal. Where is this game, right? So it seems like, at least from their Twitter post, and it seems like in December 31st, 2021, they posted this. We will do our best to make some announcements in 2022. Gen Design is still recruiting staff for new projects. This is a theme that you're going to see on a lot of these Twitter posts, is that they are continuously trying to recruit people, even though it seems like there are still a fairly small company, probably 10, 20, 30 people max. I'm assuming we really don't have the numbers of the amount of staff that this company has. But this is going to be a theme around like recruitment all the way to now even. But I'll get to that. But yeah, it seems like if you actually check their website, they're still recruiting for a bunch of positions. But after a while, in October the 14th, 2022, we see that they posted this image where they say, notice regarding new graduate recruitment, we are now accepting applications for the second round of recruitment for new graduates in 2023. So they are recruiting in October 14th for until February 28th of 2023, which is a pretty big cycle. We're talking about like what, 6 months, 5-6 months of recruitment process, which is a lot. Or at least the window for recruitment for you to send your applications is pretty big. But one thing that is like really interesting is the fact that they posted this image where they say, okay, we have the ICO video game, Shadow of the Colossus, Last Guardian, and this last image, right? And this last image seems to be in the same sort of themes that we're used to, which is very much like this big sort of figure, whatever this is, and this little dude. We don't really know what this is, but we can probably assume that this is some sort of creature or some dormant sort of creature. It kind of seems that way. One thing that I didn't mention is this image. This image was released in 2018 by Fumito Ueda, I believe, in his Twitter. The title for this image is called The Beauty and the Beast. It does seem like it's very much a Shadow of the Colossus sort of. It feels that way, at least to me, right? You have this young lady here and this like sort of beast creature, whatever this is. It kind of reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus, but honestly can't really make much out of it. And honestly, again, I can't really tell much from this image apart from the fact that it feels like they're going for the same themes of like this sort of Colossus and this like little human and their relationship, right? Here's another post that they did in 2023, August 24th, where again, they're talking about, recruiting. And the new deadline is 2024, August the 31st. So, if you are actually looking for a job in the industry, there's a good chance because they're actually looking for people in remote developments. But they posted this image And one thing that I found really interesting about this image is that they have like this creature or like this thing here. And it definitely feels like it's some sort of like robot or bronze figure or something like that. I wonder if it's going to be the themes of robots. It definitely feels that way when we take into account other aspects that we're going to see right now, actually. And so this is potentially the biggest image that we got when it comes to about this new game from Gen Design, right? This was back in 2023 on the 31st of December, where they say that Gen Design is currently working hard on a new project and experiencing the pain of birth. This is a big thing. They've been recruiting for quite some time now. And to me, what it feels like is that they are very picky when it comes to choosing the people that they want to work with. And that's fine. That's totally fair. Because this is a very small sort of company, independent company, that has this deal with Epic Games in terms of funding, but it's still a very rather small company. And they potentially want to work with people not for like 2 or 3 years, like a lot of companies in the West, right? They want to work with people for years to come. It feels that way. So they're probably really picky when it comes to who they want to work with. We are also looking for members to overcome this together. We are urgently recruiting for positions of QA and sound program. But one thing that I found really curious is that this image is telling us a lot. This image is telling us that, it feels like there's a representation here and here of the joysticks of the overall, controller of the buttons in general. At least to me, that's what it feels like. We do have like this number 75. I'm not really sure what this is trying to imply, if it's like health, stamina, or some sort of, or anything else. I have no idea. And then we have like this compass here with like some dots of potentially enemies or objectives that you need to accomplish or something. Is this framing, right? And this framing very much is, at least to me and some other people on Twitter, I did saw this post by DD Sov 5 months ago where he talks about this and his thoughts on the overall image, but it definitely seems like there is this sort of resemblance to this overall look of first-person mech video games, right? Very much minimalistic sort of look, though. Very, very minimalistic. That is very much the art from Fumito Ueda here being represented for sure. Now, another thing that I found really curious is these lines right here that you're seeing, right? Very soft sort of lines, but they do kind of feel like there are a representation of this, of bending of time and space. So I'm wondering if we're not seeing like a space video game with a lot of tonalities of like wormholes and all that sort of stuff, while keeping this sort of the relationship between potentially a colossus or a robot and the human in question, right? At least that's what it feels like to me. That DD Soft says here in this post that is really curious is that in an interview by Fumito Ueda in 2005, he said this: there is a movie called The Iron Giant, and for that too, I found the English version more moving than the Japanese. I didn't understand what they were saying, but I imagine in my own head was all the more moving to me. So it definitely feels like this sort of like robotic and robots and humans and AI and all that sort of stuff might definitely be a theme on his new game. There has been reports, this was published on October 4th, 2009 by Destructoid, for example, and other websites that talked about this, where Ueda wants to make a first-person shooter and he loves Half-Life 2. He loves Half-Life 2. It's not because it's a shooter though. It's because of what they do with cutscenes in general. Because he even says here, usually when it comes to cutscenes, you can't really play. Operation isn't really allowed. That kind of game is something that I don't want to see. If you're restrained already, even before cutscene, then you're in cutscene, then that's fine. But you're in the middle of play, in the middle of the game, then all of a sudden you're in a cutscene and you're not supposed to operate at all. That's not the kind of game I want to do. If there is some other technique that I will not give them that kind of feeling, that's something I want to implement. So I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that he wants to do a first-person shooter game. It is kind of giving us that sense that he potentially wants to make a first-person game, at least. That's for sure. It definitely feels that he's going into that direction. If it's a shooter or not, that's to be still questioned, right? We don't know. Potentially, if it's a mech game, there's a bunch of enemies around here or objectives. We don't really know. It definitely feels like the overall themes are still the same from the past 2 or 3 games, which is a theme about humans and the relationship of these sort of colossi big figures. And it definitely seems like we're seeing some sort of like space game with themes about like space and time and wormholes and mechs and all that sort of stuff. That's what it seems to me. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. And if you like video games and art in general, subscribe.